How do you have the same elite group of people who essentially have nearly unlimited power, who are often themselves at the very least ethically compromised, investigate their peers working in the same institution for ethical violations, while essentially controlling the flow of information these investigations uncover? The answer: corruption. So, did you know that in 1998, after years of political scandal and corruption, Republicans and Democrats in Congress entered into a mutual and unwritten ethics truce where both parties agreed they wouldn't investigate the other for any potential misconduct for 7 years? Here's the point: the system that we believe in, the system of checks and balances, you might find essentially is just a system of protecting the checks and balances of our political and elite class. Look, there's been so much discussion lately in the media about why people have so little trust in the government institutions. You can't help but wonder yourself, probably, in the last couple months or years. Why do people have so much distrust? Why does nobody trust? Why don't I trust? Unfortunately, there's a lot of information and a lot of answers to that question, but today I just want to shed light on at least one government body that represents, in my opinion, nearly everything wrong with the political class today. And I'm talking about the Senate Ethics Committee, the body essentially tasked with ensuring that politicians behave properly, like you and me are required. As they say, nobody is above the law. Let's briefly explain what the Senate Ethics Committee is. The Senate Select Committee on Ethics was first established in 1964. It has 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans, bipartisan, everybody's excited. The committee is authorized to receive and investigate allegations of improper conduct which may reflect badly on the Senate, violation of law, violation of the Senate Code of Official Conduct, and etc. So the average person hears that, they're excited, their government is actually doing something to root out corruption. But let's look at the facts. So an analysis was done by the Atlanta Journal newspaper, which found that of the Senate Committee's public available annual reports from 2007 to 2019, out of over 1,000 complaints of alleged violations received by the committee, not one resulted in disciplinary sanction. Not one resulted in adjudication review. Most complaints didn't even make it past the secretary's desk and were just dismissed without even a preliminary investigation. During that entire time, 6 cases resulted in a private or public what? Letter of admonition. Effectively just a slap on the wrist for those who run afoul of the Senate's standards. There's 2 major issues. So first of all, senators are the ones that are heading these investigations. Imagine senators investigating senators for corruption. They know each other, they work with each other. There's a serious issue with that. It's almost a spit in the face to the taxpayers. The second issue is that out of all of those senators who are appointed to head the committee, let's think, are they perfectly ethical people? Fine, let's not say that they have to be perfectly ethical. Are they at least not unethical? Presumably, you would think, but you're wrong. Let's talk about an example. Former Senator Ted Stevens, once the chairman of the Senate Ethics Committee. In 2008, reports surfaced that he remodeled his Anchorage home with the use of an oil corporation called VECO. The remodeling would have easily cost the corporation $250,000. Stevens only paid $160,000 for it. Stevens also didn't report any of that in his tax returns. No gifts. Senate committee was silent. 3 months of investigation from the FBI and the IRS. Nothing. Stevens was finally convicted on all 7 counts, and he is essentially a felon. But here's the strange part. As if it wasn't bad enough that the Senate Ethics Committee was silent during the entire investigation on this, in their 2008 annual Ethics Committee report, there were 85 allegations of misconduct. None resulted in disciplinary action. Only 2 resulted in those public letters. Unfortunately, the lack of transparency doesn't allow the public to know whether any of those letters were even targeted at Stevens. Let's give another example. Senator of California, Barbara Boxer. So she was the chair of the committee from 2007 to 2015. In 1992, after nearly a decade in Congress, Boxer was involved in the famous housing bank scandal, in which a number of representatives bounced checks written on the accounts in the house bank. Essentially, they're just writing checks with no money in the accounts. According to the AP, Boxer was among the worst offenders with 143 overdraft checks over a period of 3 years, totaling roughly $41,000. So as if that's not enough, let's give a current example. The current vice chair of the committee is Chris Coons. So Chris Coons, you might have heard, he's known for a lot of things. Chief among them, he's the biggest single beneficiary of big pharma money. He's probably the loudest. Anyway. Not only that, but he's also the leader of a Senate subcommittee on intellectual property, which essentially has been working on a legislation overhaul of the patent system, which is perhaps the most powerful tool that brand name drug makers use to keep their prices high and their profits high. So, totally ethical guy. All of these people. I mean, it's amazing. You wonder. It's just a spit in the face again. The next issue with the Senate committee is that it has questionable judgment and also lack of full transparency. So let's talk about questionable judgment, though. You know, the way they handle some of the cases. So as I mentioned earlier, the analysis from the Atlanta Journal of the committee's publicly available annual reports from 2007 through 2019, out of over 1,000, none resulted in disciplinary action. But let's play devil's advocate for a second. Let's suggest that a lack of disciplinary action doesn't necessarily mean that the committee is not tough enough or fair enough. Perhaps Congress is not as unethical as we are led to believe. Unfortunately, I think it's pretty intuitive that that's not the case. But if it wasn't, the evidence in many cases points directly to the opposite. So let's take the case of David Vitter, Republican from Louisiana, also frequently cited as one of the most corrupt politicians. So during his reign, he sent a letter to the Secretary of Department of Interior, Ken Salazar, informing him that his salary was due for a raise, but that he would resist the raise if Salazar didn't issue exploratory permits. So that's bribery, clear. Senate Ethics Committee response, they dismissed the complaint, quote, for lack of precedent, and then clarified to the Senate that for future reference, this is something that senators ought not do. So let's give a recent example. Maybe everything from here went well. This is what we heard about during the pandemic. So this is Kelly Loeffler, senator from Georgia. So in March, she and her husband were accused of selling a substantial portion of her portfolio, including millions of dollars in stock, after a private briefing on the coronavirus. Most people lost their money after that. She also bought, by the way, significant amounts of stock in DuPont, a chemical company manufacturing protective equipment in exceedingly high demand because of the pandemic. So obviously these actions would have been a violation of what's called the Stock Act, which forbids lawmakers from profiting off information they learn in non-public briefings. What was the Senate Ethics Committee's response? They said in a letter to Loeffler, based on all the information before it, the committee did not find evidence that she violated the law, the Senate rules, or standards of conduct. So Loeffler vehemently denied the allegation and argued that her financial advisor was responsible for nearly millions of dollars in stock trade. By the way, she later recused herself from the Senate Agriculture Subcommittee and vowed to divest from individual stocks. I'm not sure why, if she did nothing wrong, but she said she wanted attention to be elsewhere. Senator Dianne Feinstein, by the way, Democrat from California, she also stole stock after the private coronavirus meeting. Nothing from her. So here's the problem. There's not a lot of transparency about how or why some of these cases are thrown out. Issue 1, a leading American nonpartisan not-for-profit organization that seeks to reduce the role of money in politics, for example, they did an analysis on the Senate Ethics Committee and found that the bare bones report obscures the committee's process for investigations, making it nearly impossible for the public to understand the severity of the allegations brought against their elected leaders, their staff, or what accounts for an ethical violation in the first place. This should be transparent, this should be open, this should be public information, but it's not. Another issue with the committee is that the number of complaints are dropping pretty significantly, so some years by 50%. So this means one of two things. Either senators are more committed to ethics and they're becoming holier people. I highly doubt that's true. Or people are not reporting with the decreased vigilance by those around them, so they don't see that it's going to do anything. Or perhaps like the 1998 truce. It's happening again. Republicans and Democrats are deciding not to do anything about some of the ethical violations. So let's be honest, let's be fair. I know that members of the Ethics Committee have been dealing with a lot on their plate. Let's think about what they did in February, and they took a lot of time. In February, Republicans attempted to censure Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Essentially would have been the first censure of a sitting speaker. Her offense, ripping up the president's speech. Stupid, but I mean, selling stock at crazy levels. This is initiative that they took. But they're dropping the other charges. So it all boils down to the fact that they don't give a shit about ethics. To them, it's all about the next election. But the issue is that ordinary people lose out. You need a truly independent body to investigate Senate corruption. You can't have senators who are friends with other senators investigating their friends. It doesn't make any sense. So that's my rant. Thank you so much I'm just a guy with an iPad. Thank you so much for watching, though. I really appreciate it. Please like, please subscribe. If you like the comment, I appreciate it. Otherwise, please let me know what kind of topics you would want in the future, and I'd be happy to do a deep dive. Thank you and have a great day.